Morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is J.R. Moore coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the 22nd day of November, year of our Lord 2019. Welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our shows with something that, well, I know I'm repeating myself, but it is that important. It should be said in every school, private and public, every day. They have classes. That would be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We begin our meetings at the Crawford County Republican Central Committee with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Crawford County Commission, these are the men who run the county's business. They begin their public meetings with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I think it's just a good thing to do. The prepper tip of the day: I encourage all of you to take a youngster shooting. Get them started right. You might want to take an NRA safety class, possibly a hunter safety class. Most states these days have a hunter safety class. Or one step up from those two would be an Appleseed Project weekend, where you spend the whole weekend not only learning basic marksmanship skills and safety skills, but also learning about the founding of our country and the American Revolution. We have patiently waiting in the green room my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who began a quest more than half a century ago to become quite knowledgeable in emergency survival communication, ham radio, radio frequency engineering, electronics in general. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, John. We're enjoying another nice fall day here in the Ozarks. How about you?
We are, absolutely. Well, Tom, I'm learning that working on this Triumph sports car, that the skills I learned years ago in ham radio involving wiring, the use of crimpers, how to properly crimp connectors, how to run wires so that they can be identified and run safely and properly, as a friend of mine would say, to NATO specifications, that those skills and those tools, that knowledge is all transferable from ham radio to working on automobiles. And that's a good thing, isn't it?
Oh, it sure is. And yeah, I know you've been wanting one of those cars for years. I'm glad you found one. I think you said the door wouldn't stay latched. Is that taken care of now?
Well, the new latch is on order and was supposed to be shipped priority mail yesterday. I'll probably get it soon and then take care of that. And I also, it's just going to be a project. It's a hobby. It has nothing to do with what's practical. It's about as slightly more practical than a motorcycle, and I say slightly. It's basically a motorcycle with four wheels, Tom. And,
yeah, John, can you tell me and tell the listeners, maybe you already have, but I didn't know exactly what the car is. It's a Triumph, you say?
Yeah, that's because you don't look at my website, sir. Shame on you. It's a 1969 Triumph TR6, which was the last of the traditional British sports cars, by that manufacturer anyway. Well, there was they were raced successfully back in the late 60s, early 70s. In fact, Paul Newman raced a TR6 quite successfully, by the way, and his was white, just like mine is white. White would not be my first choice, but when you're getting an automobile this, you have to take whatever color you can get. So it's a two-seat sports car, and it has a six-cylinder engine. Somebody modified the engine by installing two Weber two-throat downdraft carburetors, two-barrel carburetors, which is a substantial upgrade in performance. It's about a $1,200 upgrade on the carburetors alone. I've noticed other things, such as the new brake lines have been installed. The car has been relatively well maintained over the years. There's some issues I'm dealing with, primarily electrical issues and some mechanical. But it's a fun project. I think I got a good starting point where I can work on the car and drive it while while I'm doing the upgrades, and that was my goal, and that car does meet this criterion. So yeah, getting back to the door latch, that's a simple mechanical problem with a simple mechanical solution, and that will be resolved soon. In fact, these cars are simple as a brick, Tom. They're about as complicated as a lawnmower before electronics. Very, very simple.
Oh, that's great, John. And just a quick note, if you ever get in trouble with those carburetors, you need help with those. A very good friend of mine is known worldwide for rebuilding antique car carburetors, fuel injection systems. He did all the Corvettes. In fact, he had one of the most bizarre fuel. I think I told you about that. He had purchased a Corvette from an estate. Had to buy the whole estate and everything to get this car. It's very valuable, and he could rebuild those carburetors and make them look brand new. I helped him nearly almost 40 years ago set up his first electroplating system. And anyway, he's well equipped if you ever need help with that. And he's right there in St. Louis, so it'd be
well, I'll keep that in mind.
Good guy. Yeah.
I rebuilt carburetors. One of the first things I did with my first Triumph that I bought in 1965. I rebuilt the carburetors myself, and it was a challenge because the level of cleanliness you have to have is pretty extreme. You got tiny little parts. And they have to go together in just the right way, or nothing works.
Oh yeah,
well, moving off.
Yeah. Anyway, I like talking about that stuff, as you can tell.
Well, yeah, it's fun. I know, as a younger man, you were a motorhead and owned some high-performance automobiles yourself, which is pretty typical for American males and some females. So, the American love affair with automobiles has not gone away. But getting back to the original premise, learning ham radio means learning skills. And those skills will include how to install radios, which will involve running wires, stripping wires, attaching connectors, crimping connectors, making sure the connections are clean and tight, that the installation is done in a tidy, organized fashion so that it doesn't look like a mess of spaghetti. And so those skills are useful and transferable to other areas, not only automobiles, but anything involving wiring, which could be pickup trucks, automobiles, motorcycles, lawnmowers. All those things have wiring in them, even your household wiring, and maybe some appliances. You may find yourself ready to take on projects around the house involving wiring that you wouldn't have considered previously, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, that's true, John. And speaking of cars, we talk about emergency communications and ham radio equipment. That's a whole nother subject in itself. Putting these ham radios into motor vehicles. Especially these newer modern cars. Now, putting into that Triumph would be very simple. And in fact, that would be a pretty good car to put a radio in, because it would be very quiet relative to these new cars with all the computers and the sensors. They all make a lot of noise that can interfere with the radio itself.
You mean electronic noise? Electronic noise, not audible noise.
Right. The noise from the electronics, from all the switching going on, can make all kinds of racket that comes through the radios, especially on a HF system. It's a lot easier for the VHF and UHF FM, but if you're doing any kind of AM, which would be single sideband or AM, that's it take a little bit of effort sometimes to keep that noise out of the radio. So it's good to know about wiring and testing methods, so you can get in there and find out where the interference is and put filters and appropriate shielding in to reduce that to a minimum or eliminate it all the way. That's the best scenario, but sometimes you can't eliminate it totally. That Triumph would be very, very clean. The older cars are just a lot better as far as that goes.
Right. Well, this car is pretty close to being completely EMP proof. It has no computers in it whatsoever. The only computers that existed in 1969 were owned by the government and universities, and they took paper cards to operate. If you can believe that, so it's that's my rationalization for owning it as EMP proof. But yeah, everything you're saying is accurate, Tom. And another thing I found is my Dremel tool is coming in handy for cleaning contacts. You got electrical contacts that are about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch for these connectors. They're in hard to reach spots to get to with a wire brush, but the little Dremel tool with a wire brush attachment on it just gets right down in tight spots. I can reach in there, clean the corrosion off, put a little of the proper coating on there, and then put it all back together, and it's good and clean and tight, and with a dielectric grease, and ready to go for years into the future.
Yeah, that sounds good. You know, another good way to clean contacts, if you have the room and can't get in there, is to cut a narrow strip of very, very fine sandpaper, depending on the amount of corrosion, but usually somewhere around a 400, maybe a 600 grit, and then take that sandpaper and with your fingertip just push the contacts down with that sandpaper in between, just pull it through there, and then flip the sandpaper over to do the other side of the contact and just pull it through, and that will clean off that contact. The only problem with any of this grinding or sanding or filing on contacts is sometimes they have multiple coatings on there. It might be a copper contact with, in some cases, even a gold plating, and you'll destroy that. And in those cases, if it's gold, it's not going to be corroded. It might be pitted from the current going through there, but the gold won't corrode. But sometimes if it's a precious metal coating on there that you want to retain, another thing you could do is just take a strip of heavy paper or very, very thin cardboard, almost like what a cereal box or something is made out of, and just plain cardboard, and just push that contact on that and pull that through, and that will burnish those connection points there that the contacts make. That will burnish them and clean them up good enough. So that's another thing that can be done.
Right. Well, over the years, this car is a half century old. I found that previous owners had used connectors that were larger for larger size wire than what was being used, so they weren't as solid as they should have been. So I'll be replacing some connectors with the proper size connectors that will be nice and tight. They were using connectors made for 12 gauge wire with that had much smaller wire, maybe 18 gauge, something like that, pretty small wire. But when I'm done, the end product will be just as tight and as secure and as functional as when the car was new half a century ago. So it'll be a little bit of work, but it'll be a more peace of mind knowing that everything's just as tight and as snug and as good quality as it was when it came from the factory.
Yeah, that really sounds great, John. That's a fun project.
It's a hobby. It's a hobby.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's a. I was talking to a friend last night, and I was talking about how most of my adult life, my daily work, working as an investigator, homicide detective. At the end of the day, I had no work product that I could pick up or stand back and look at, unless you count sheets of paper. Or with this project, I actually have a three-dimensional object that I'm working on that I can look at, that I can touch, and it's real, as opposed to the esoteric, philosophical work product of being an investigator. And that's for me, it's very satisfying.
Yeah, Anyway, those kind of projects are fun, John, and I'm past the car thing, and it may be just as well. I'm surprised I lived through some of it, but I had some fast cars. And one time two times actually, I outran the Highway Patrol, Missouri State Patrol. I hope there's a statute of limitations of those guys. Might
7 years.
Be after
It's 7 years, Tom. Yeah,
okay, good. Well, then I'm off the hook, because I remember one time some of us were at our popular hangout, and everybody had the hoods up looking at the engines and talking about the cars, and one of those Highway Patrol guys pulled up, and he just came right up to me, and he says, "Barry Hill, we're going to get you. We know that was you. We're going to get you." And I said, "It wasn't me. It was a friend. A lot of my friends drive this car. It wasn't me." John, that was one fast car, and, you talk about door latches. I was going around one of those, what do they call them, where Highway 270 there goes into Highway 55 South.
Cloverleaf.
And Cloverleaf, that's it. I couldn't remember the word. Cloverleaf, and had that door frame or that door latch come undone, even with the seatbelt on, I think it would have ripped the seatbelt loose. The centrifugal force, I would have gone flying out of that car. I was really moving. That car would hug the road like there was no tomorrow. So that cop couldn't get me, and that's where I lost him, and I was able to get off there.
Well, there's a saying in the circles I travel in, the following saying: "You can't outrun Motorola." Well,
yes, sir, that's very true, and I would never attempt something like that today with the helicopter. They weren't doing the helicopters in this 1975, and they weren't doing helicopters in those days, or limited amount, but it's not. I was young and dumb. I wouldn't attempt that today. Not at all.
Well, for those that monitor CB Channel 19, the truckers will report speed traps as they see them, and the police routinely do that, of course, on interstate highways and other places, and that's another advantage to being a radio operator. Now, this doesn't involve ham radios; it involves CB, which many ham radio operators want nothing to do with CB, but I find CB to be very useful for avoiding traffic accidents that have blockages and construction that have blockages on the road. The truckers will give me a warning. I get off at the next exit, and I'm cruising down the outer road while I'm watching people stop on the interstate highway, waiting for the accident or the construction to let them through. We have a break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 22nd of November. We have Valentine's Day coming up in a couple of months. Wouldn't it be special to take your sweetheart on a Caribbean cruise? How about that? Well, we're going on a Caribbean cruise. You're welcome to join us. We still have cabins available, last time I checked. The John Moore Patriot Symposium Cruise. We leave Florida the 9th of February, return the 16th. Details at my website. You can call our cruise director if you want to make reservations, find out more. Our cruise director, Betsy Murphy, 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. Tom, we got a caller on hold here. We got Earl in Maine. Good morning, Earl.
Hey, John, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
All right, here's my question, technical question. I have a handheld transmitter that transmits in both the VHF Marine band, 156 megahertz to 157, and in the GMR band, 462 megahertz. It has removable rubber ducky antennas, and I have a couple of whip antennas on my handheld transmitter ham band that operates in the 144 to 430 megahertz, capable of 10-watt capable antenna. Is that okay to screw that extra antenna I have onto the dual VHF Marine band, GMR band?
Well, I think you could do, if you want to put a whip antenna on there instead of that flexible, that shark rubber duck antenna, you could do that. But if it's in the ham band, it's going to be a bit too long. The marine band is up around 156, and there's, I forgot how, 16 channels or something like that. So what you want to do is go and take the middle frequency, and then you'll have to trim that antenna a little bit. It's got to be a little bit shorter, not much, but a little bit. It's probably not that critical and would most likely work the way it is, but to do it right, you would want to make the antenna a little shorter. And the formula for that is 234 divided by the frequency in megahertz. Now, since we're dealing with shorter antennas, you might want to multiply the 234 by 12 so you can come up with something in inches. And from that, you would just divide that and get the length, and then trim the antenna to that length. Right now, around 146 megahertz, that whip antenna will be approximately 19 inches long, and it needs to be just a little bit shorter. You might even be able to look at a chart and look up and just see how long it needs to be and just trim it, and that most likely would be close enough. But that formula will get you almost exactly where you need to be. And then, and I've been doing this for years, if you operate a whip antenna like that at 2 meters, or the VHF, what they call high band VHF frequencies, which would be 136 to 174, anywhere in that range, the UHF frequencies are 3 times that. So it's an odd multiple of a quarter wavelength, and that antenna will still work on the UHF band. So if it's, let's just say your 2 meter antenna is 19 inches long, you can also use that on the 440 megahertz ham band, because it will be an odd multiple. It'll be 3 1/4 wavelengths long, and that's perfect. And I've done that for many years on mobile units. Just use a 19-inch whip for 2 meters, and then also operate the UHF ham band off the same antenna. And that works great for these dual band mobile rigs, which sounds like something that you have. Just be careful, though, using that marine band away from maritime stations, because it's illegal to operate that on land. People do it all the time. They get away with it until they get caught. That's the only downside to the marine band.
Correct. I'm okay with that marine band. I'm deep enough in the woods, I don't need to worry about it. But I'm not using that band unless it's a grid down scenario anyway. All right, that's good information. So a little trim, and I should be good to go.
All right. Okay, thanks.
John, one more question for you.
Go ahead, Errol.
Did I get another question, John?
Go ahead.
Are you still selling James N. McCanney water filters?
We're working in it set up. It's in the works, and we'll announce it as soon as it's ready to go, which hopefully will be in a week or so.
All right, very good. Good show. Keep it up, guys.
Okay, thank you, Earl. Republic Broadcasting is having a pledge drive this week. We need the money. We do. The rubber bands, paper clips, and chewing gum are barely holding things together, but they are for the time being. A little bit of Scotch tape here and there. So help us out at Republic Broadcasting with your donations during this pledge drive. You can go to republicbroadcasting.org. You can donate using PayPal. You do not need a PayPal account to use PayPal, believe it or not. We got a toll-free hour line to call. You can make your donation. It's 800-724-2719. I say again, 800-724-2719, extension 3. When I mail a check, Republic Broadcasting, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. I'll do that one more time. 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. We'll be right back.
Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 22nd of November. Well, my webmaster, Tim Spencer, is back. We now have our daily intelligence briefing back up and running. I was getting inquiries. Tim was on vacation, and he's back. And it's a great place to keep up to speed in what's going on with geopolitical matters worldwide. Dozens of articles posted every day. Very good friend of mine, former counterintelligence agent. He puts this together. It's a lot of work, and we're very grateful that he does that. Also, my website, of course, you'll find energy cleaners for sale. A substantial percentage of Americans have arthritis. A very large percentage, something like 20-25% of American adults have arthritis. If you do, well, you need an energy cleaner. You already have an energy cleaner. You know how good it is. You probably know somebody that has arthritis issues, maybe a parent, maybe an adult child, maybe a sibling that has arthritis issues. What a great Christmas gift. An energy cleaner, a mattress pad to go with it, something that they will be grateful for many years into the future. Get the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. You can place your order right there using PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. Keep in mind, if you're new to the energy cleaner, I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee, something healthcare professionals are highly unlikely to do. Toll-free hour line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. This is the first hour on Friday when we talk about emergency survival communications with Tom Berryhill. And Tom, I think it's important for people to understand the increase in their base of knowledge when they get involved in ham radio, that it doesn't involve only ham radio. It involves putting thought into preparedness in general, why you would need radios, where you would need them, who you're going to be talking to, under what conditions, the tactical uses of radio where you need to maintain silence and still be able to communicate, how to avoid being intercepted if people are trying to monitor your communications, how to talk and not give away anything that's critical to your situation. There's a lot to this, isn't there?
There really is, and there's a lot of thought that has to go into it, and of course we focus on preparedness along with the communications. John, I continue to get inquiries locally and sometimes by email, people that are setting up ham stations and they're getting onto the HF bands, and they're asking about antennas or asking about transmission line, coax cable, and so on, what type to get, what type to use. And I'd like to make a few comments on that, because people ask me what type of antenna do I use on the HF band. And I'll tell you exactly what it is. I use a center-fed doublet or a dipole, and the length is, I don't know exactly what the length is. I just figured out how much space I had. I have plenty of room and big trees to string these things up in, so I made it as long as I could in a clearing behind the house, and I'm going to guess it's about maybe 350 feet long, and I used 12 gauge THHN cable, electrical cable. There's better choices than that, but I use that because I could get it locally. I bought it at a Lowe's store, a whole spool of it, and I already had some spare. I bought a 500-foot spool, and I had some left over from another project, so I just stretched out a line between these two very tall trees and folded it over on itself so I could find the exact center, cut it in the center, and I used a ceramic insulator about 3 inches long, and I put those wires, they're insulated, and it's stranded, by the way, and I stripped off the insulation and put it through that insulator and wrapped it around itself, and I attached open wire feed line to it. Now, I don't use coaxial cable for HF antennas. I don't like it, and really, if anybody would take the time to study up on that subject, they'll find out that a open wire feed line is much better than any coaxial cable. And the reason being is that an antenna will resonate at one particular frequency, and if you want to use that over the entire HF bands, you can make it long enough to resonate or operate pretty efficiently at 160 meters, which is 1.8 to 2 megahertz. So I made the antenna long enough to operate into that band, and actually a little bit lower. Had I taken the time, I could have measured it and made it resonant in the 160 meter band. I just made the antenna long enough to get into that band and even lower. And it's anyway, that antenna is probably at least 300 feet long. So you get a lot of wire up in the air and feed it right in the center. You want to be right in the center. There's a lot of talk about these off-center fed antennas and so on, but I like to make them balanced so that each side of that dipole is the same length. And that open wire feed line, you make it yourself. You can buy it. You can buy what they call window line or ladder line, but it's not too hard to make it yourself with anywhere from a 3 to 6 inch spacing, even 2 inch spacing. And it's basically just, you can use pieces of polyethylene water pipe, and that black water pipe, and put holes in there to put your spacers about every 1.5 feet or so. And you want to use solid wire. It can be insulated, but you want solid wire now, so it holds its shape a lot better. And then it looks like a ladder, and that's why they call it ladder line, because you have those insulators, those spacers, spacing the line, the two wires that are forming your transmission line. It's hard to, again, explain this verbally, but if I had a chalkboard, I could draw pictures. It's very simple to do, and you can also buy it made, but it's much less expensive to just do it yourself and get all the materials at any of the big box hardware stores, and they'll have what you need, and make that transmission line yourself, and then feed that into a tuner. Bring that all the way into the radio room, and hook up to a antenna tuner that has a balanced line output. And there's many of them on the market that will do that job. And now that the transmission line is a tuned feeder and it has very low loss, you'll lose less power. And it doesn't make sense to a lot of the new hams that are not familiar with this. They have to study up on it and learn about it. But there'll be less loss from that open wire transmission line than any piece of coax you'll ever find. And to get low losses, you have to have some pretty good size transmission lines. And to feed a dipole antenna with a piece of coaxial cable, you're going to have power coming back on the outside of the shield. You're going to have RF problems. I've seen it, John, where you're running higher power and there's so much RF floating around a radio room that you'd actually, if it's a metallic microphone, you got that your lips touched it while you're transmitting, you actually it would burn your lips because of you get an RF burn off the microphone itself. Too much RF floating around.
That's an awful lot of power.
Oh, yeah, it's happened to me with just a few hundred watts. It'll do that. So you want to tune those feeders, and you can never do that. A coaxial cable will feed an antenna proper at its resonant frequency. If a 50 ohm coax cable will be very, very close in impedance matching at one particular frequency. But then what happens is you want to operate on other frequencies, and so these antenna tuners actually they attempt to make an impedance match by tuning through the coax cable, and that's really not the proper way to do it. But that open wire feeder line, you could have reflected power. You can have a 10-to-1 SWR. It doesn't matter, because your antenna tuner will prevent any of that from causing a problem with your transmitter. It will present a 50 ohm load to that transmitter. The only piece of coax cable you'll have in your radio room will be from the transceiver itself into that antenna tuner, and then from the tuner there will be a proper match to the open wire line. And that you can have, there's some charts out there. I think ARRL has that in their handbook. There used to be a chart anyway, and I looked at it once. I think the losses were like 1/4 of a decibel at 1,000 feet of transmission line at 10 megahertz. Now there's not too much in the way of coaxial cables that could even come close to that. So it's just best to use these open wire lines. And you can make a very simple antenna that works very efficiently on all the bands from 160 meters up through 10 meters. You could even use that on 6 meters. Now, that's for a horizontal antenna. And then, of course, if you want to go vertical, you can make a dipole. If you have a tall enough tree or a telephone pole or a tower or something, you can make a dipole that's vertical, and then you don't have to worry about the radials. If you have a vertical antenna, you do need some sort of radial system under the base of that go into the ground. You should use, for vertical now, you should use some sort of a counterpoise system, and it can be many, many radials, maybe 30 of them that branch out from the feed point. You can lay them right on the ground. There's other types of clips and things that you can nail in that will hold that wire down close to the ground, so a lawnmower will go right over it, and you won't even know it's there. So you could do that if you have the space to stretch those out, and they should be at least 1/4 of a wavelength, even longer if you can do it. A lot of people install a vertical antenna and drive one or two ground rods, and that will work, but it's never as sufficient as putting in a series of ground counterpoise wires that are ground plane type wires. And
Tom, we got a caller on hold here. Let's get to our caller, Jerry in Texas. Good morning, Jerry.
Good morning, Tom and John. Quick question on this homemade ladder line, if you will. What gauge wire would you recommend on that?
Okay, on mine, Jerry, I'm using 12 gauge solid wire. It's regular electrical wire, THHN, and it will stand up for a long time. Now, sometimes the insulation starts peeling. There's not only the PVC insulation, but there's another clear coating over that, and some of that will come off after a few years. Don't even worry about that. I really think if you put that up, it would last for many years. Mine's been up for about 2 years now on that particular antenna. You can use, if you can find maybe a 12 gauge solid wire, you could use that as well. It doesn't have to be insulated. It doesn't have to be, but the insulators, the spreaders as they're called, you can use just buy a roll of that real cheap polyethylene, just a small half
right,
inch or so.
Yeah,
that's it. That stuff's cheap, and it's relatively lightweight. Polyethylene's has a good dielectric constant at HF frequencies, and it will work fine. And it's real cheap. And then to secure it, as you pass the wire through, you just drill holes through the ends of the pipe, and you can make a gauge or a fixture and use a drill press or even a hand drill to get your spacing just right. And then where that where the wire goes through the pipe, just put a black tie wrap down in there and tie it down on the wire, and that'll keep it from sliding around. And it doesn't have to be real tight. You just want to maintain that spacing. But I use a 10 gauge. A 12 gauge. And if you're running really high power, you might want to go with a 10 gauge. It's not real critical, but you don't want anything real small because you need the rigidity also to maintain that spacing. And it will amaze you. If you have two antennas, you could try them side by side. You might be amazed at how well this works. The losses are very low, and if you're running any substantial amounts of power, that's why I use the 12 gauge. By the way, I have an amplifier that's capable of a lot of power in excess of what's allowed to the ham operators. I hardly ever use it. And by the way, that amplifier is a 10 Tech. 425. I think that's the number. 425, a Titan 10 Tech amplifier. It's a very, very nice amplifier. Tubes are getting a little hard to get, but you can find them still. And I occasionally use it, but not too. It'll do 2.5 kilowatts output if you're on single side.
Right up the neighborhood, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was just kind of curious about the gauge wire on this coaxial. It's not really coaxial, but ladder line. One other quick question. I want to get me I'm gearing up to build me some antennas, particularly 2 meter, 6 meter antennas, dipoles, and I want to build one of those cubicle quads, both 2 and 6, if I possibly can. This is oxymoron, I know. A good, inexpensive SWR meter or antenna analyzer. I see there's a combination of them. Is there one out there that you could recommend with somebody that's want to go kind of inexpensive but good?
Jerry, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of those out there, and one of the most popular ones is made by MFJ, and I hate to say it, but I just don't like their equipment. I don't like MFJ equipment.
Buddy mine called it mighty fine junk.
I didn't want to say that. You said it. But I've heard it said many times. They try, but when you buy MFJ equipment, you're actually buying a kit. You may have to go through and resolder everything, but a lot of people use that antenna analyzer. I do not. I use a Hewlett-Packard vector network analyzer, which is really what some of these newer types of antenna analyzers are. It's a vector network analyzer, and I use a Hewlett-Packard 8753C.
Hold that thought, Tom. Hold that thought. Jerry, thank you for the call. We got our last break.
Yeah, thank you. Okay.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 22nd. We have people listening out there who are fascinated. They know exactly what Tom's talking about. They're furiously making notes. And we have others who don't have a clue what's going on. And for those of you who don't have a clue, here's where you get started. You go to the ARRL.org website, and at that point, you're ready to start learning what we're all talking about here, right, Tom?
That's exactly correct, John. It takes a little bit of study. You do have to put some effort into it. But you can learn all these things. It's not that difficult. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to worry about all the math. There's quite a bit of math involved. But you can just learn the basics, and that'll get you through any ham radio project.
That's right. You'll have
a pretty
let's
good
get to our
knowledge base.
Let's get to our last call here, Tom. Dave in Texas. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, guys. Great show like usual. Quick question for you. To maintain a little more private communication, not completely secure, of course, what do you think about these DMR, the digital handheld radios that work on VHF and UHF? Do you think those are a pretty good deal to keep other people that do not have that sort of capability away from listening to your conversation?
Well, that would certainly do that, Dave. That's going to keep your average person from tuning in unless they have a scanner that's digital capable. And I always recommend that people that are interested in scanners to have digital capabilities. But the casual listener won't have that. If they have an older scanner, they definitely won't be able to hear a word you're saying. It won't keep any government agencies or military from listening to what you're talking about. A lot of the ham operators are going to DMR systems, P25, all the different digital modes, the D-Star, the Yaesu system. They're all going to this and experimenting with it and setting up systems. So it's getting more and more popular. So privacy, about the only way to have total privacy is to keep your transmissions short, and in a grid-down situation, maybe have your own codes that only you and your people understand and know. So that's really about the bottom line, is to have your own.
The smart thing,
system.
Dave, is never assume you're talking privately. You do what you can, but never assume you're talking completely privately. That could be a huge mistake.
Right, just an extra layer of assistance in keeping your privacy. Some of these radios have really come down in price, and it looks like they might be a good idea for a zombie apocalypse scenario.
Absolutely. Dave, thanks for the call. Don't be a stranger. We appreciate it. Well, Tom, this hour just flew by, to say the least. And let's talk. Let's you and I talk privately. We're going to be scheduling the next Tom Barry Hill amateur radio class in 2020 at our local preparedness group. So it'll be coming up sometime soon, and we're doing our scheduling the first Saturday of December. So I want to talk to you before then, Tom, about scheduling a ham radio class for our local preparedness group. And just get busy, everybody. Tom, thank you. Let's talk soon.
Thank you, John.
Top of the hour break. Be back with Dr. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Friday, November 22nd. This is the hour that typically Dr. Lynn Wilbert calls in. He has not called in. If he does, he will join us, and we'll have a discussion on health-related matters. Your prepper tip of the day, I want to encourage people. This is a time when families get together, and there might be some discretionary time to have some activity that wouldn't take place otherwise. I want to encourage people to take a youngster shooting. If you're qualified to properly teach the youngster the safe handling of firearms, and you should do that. If not, then you should get an NRA safety class, hunter safety class, or maybe sign up for an Appleseed Project weekend. That would be fun. It looks like we do have with us Dr. Lynn Wilbert, and we'll be talking about health-related matters. If you need a private consultation with Dr. Wilbert, want to become a client of his telephone is 314-495-6480. Good morning, Doctor.
Greetings, J.R. Moore. Much fun to be here again.
It's good to have you, sir. I just found out recently that two young relatives of mine, these are gentlemen, one is in his late 40s, the other one is mid-40s. They're both going to have knee replacements. That's tragic that young people are having these things, these procedures that typically we wouldn't see until somebody got much, much older. But we're seeing young people more and more having the conditions and the diseases, and they are two separate things, conditions and diseases that we used to see only in people in their 60s and 70s, aren't we, sir?
That's absolutely correct. You know, it's amazing. When we were in our 40s, it's see. Yeah, cell phones were around 20 years ago. Cell phones were around, but they were giant phones and all of that. And so
bag phone. We had remember bag phones?
Yes.
that was if you wanted some power, that's the ones you got. They were the powerful ones, the bag phones. Right.
Yes. So now here's what's happening with young people and just about everybody. And I absolutely believe that this is going to become not only epidemic but pandemic, because everybody, most everyone, has a mobile device of some sort, and they look down at the mobile device. Now, if you're looking down at the mobile device, most of the time you're going to bend your head forward and your neck is going to bend with your head, because the neck moves the head. That would be the wife in the relationship. The head of the household is the man, but the wife is the neck that moves the head. So the neck.
I like that. I never heard that analogy, but that's accurate. That's the way it is.
That's the way it is. It's true. It's true. And then I had to figure it out. All women have a 60 gig hard drive in their computer, and all men have 30. We'll get back around to that. But just imagine bending your neck forward at a 45, 55-degree angle for hours at a time. And what you're doing, you are putting pressure on your brain stem. Now, your brain stem actually extends down into your neck, just right around the middle part of your neck. That's still your brain stem. So you're putting pressure on your brain stem. Now, your brain stem, you've heard of brain dead. If you're brain dead, then they keep you alive with machines. That's called life support. But there's no such thing as being a little brain dead. And for lack of a better analogy, that's like being a little pregnant. There's no such thing. Either you are or you're not. And so imagine hours of slight pressure on your brainstem that distorts the signal, the electrical signal, the nerve signal going to the body from the brain. Now, contrary to popular opinion and belief, it's more important the electrical nerve signal going from the body to the brain, because the brain tells the body what to do based on what the body tells the brain what it's doing. The brain doesn't arbitrarily say, body, I don't know what you're doing, and I don't know why you're telling me you're doing this, but I'm not paying any attention to you. No. If you're sitting, looking down at your mobile device, shoulders holding hands with your ears. When I say sitting, sitting is the absolute worst position for human beings. And we spend hours sitting. Even if you sit at your desk and work, you should only do that for a maximum of an hour and a half. I'm an injury prevention specialist for a company based out of Santa Barbara. We train all kinds of individuals, office workers, factory workers, airplane mechanics. We've trained all kinds of people that use their body to work. And as an injury prevention specialist, sitting is the worst position for your spine. And now you're sitting, you're looking down at your mobile device for hours at a time. You're sending a distorted message from body to brain, and who knows, you may be on social media, you may be following the Trump capades or whatever you're looking at. You have some kind of emotional connection to it. And so now you're sitting, putting extra stress and pressure on your spine, and stress plus pressure equals stressor. Humans do not know what to do with stressor. Nature does. Let me give you a prime example of stressor. Mountains have been around for eons. And when they start to move, mountains turn rock into coal and then turn coal into diamonds from increased stress and pressure within the rock mass. Humans don't know what to do with that. So now we have a trifecta going on. Sitting for hours, bending your neck. It's called tech neck. The insurance companies are getting wind of it now, and they're starting to pay for that condition that you created that didn't exist. And I heard in the store yesterday, this is a young female, and I heard the conversation because they were just in front of me, and she says, "Oh, you won't find me drinking any water. I don't drink water unless I'm dehydrated." And I politely, I said, "Really? You know, most of your body fluids are made of water. And if you're dehydrated and thirsty, then you've already compromised those systems, like blood and hormones, young female lady, and digestive enzymes, lymphatic fluid." I didn't go on because I wasn't getting anywhere.
Well, doctor, I need to comment on what you're saying here because this brings up something Americans do. My wife, Dr. Moore, had a female patient, who not only didn't drink water, but took pride in not drinking water. I never drink water. But Americans can successfully, if they choose to, eliminate almost all the salt from their diet and cause great harm. They can eliminate water from their diet and cause great harm. They can eliminate fat from their diet and cause great harm, all the while think they're doing good, don't they?
That is the, I would say it's becoming a dilemma because of social media, of branding, of advertising, of marketing. They are creating situations.
They can eliminate acid. Let's add to that. They can eliminate the acid from their stomach because the marketing, like you mentioned just now, marketing advertising makes it sound like the hydrochloric gas in your stomach is something wrong and shouldn't be there. And you can successfully neutralize it with taking over-the-counter items and really harm yourself, can't you?
Oh, my goodness gracious. The most popular anti-acid, I guess it's a drug, is Alka-Seltzer. Plop, plop, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, well, that's a hint. Alka-Seltzer, alkaline seltzer. Your stomach is the only part of your body that is supposed to be acid, and the more acid it is, the more efficient your digestive enzymes are. Oh, the more efficiently you digest and assimilate food. But no, we've gotten into a conundrum of things that we do to compromise the body's ability to move, and not only move correctly. I gave myself some more initials behind my name, MSS, Movement Science Specialist. I've been studying movement for a very long time, and movement is directly, intrinsically linked to emotion. Movement and emotion. Emotions are energy in motion. That's your body feeding back to the sensory mechanisms in the brain, saying, hey, this energy that I'm sending to you is not what we were designed to feel. So now you're producing excess acid from thinking. Thinking is what I call it. Less than positive thinking. Nature doesn't participate in that. We're the only creatures that do. We can think. And we can choose what we think. therein lies the issue, is the choice. We have so many choices of what to do. We've been influenced by the big marketeers, and so it gets to the point where we are confused as to what to do, all the way up to the point, Tom Moore, where people are walking into medical doctors' offices and they're saying, "Doctor, I saw this drug on TV, and they told me to ask you if this drug was right for me." Well, the doctor doesn't know. He only prescribes medication based on the recommendations of the pharmaceutical.
They call them detail person. And doctor, you may have you know a lot of stuff, but our listeners may not. The pharmaceutical companies, the people they send around to the doctors to sell the drugs are called detail people. In beginning, it's been quite a while, maybe 15 plus years ago, 20 years ago, they started hiring only former cheerleaders to be detail people. Now, cheerleaders have these bubbly, outgoing personalities. Typically, they're very attractive young women. And, of course, almost all the people they're talking to are male doctors. Do you see a formula here, doctor?
You know, in order to sell poison, you have to package it. You have to buy the package, even if you buy the poison. Oh, well, my insurance pays for my medication. I don't have to pay much at all. Okay, well, that's free poison. None of it is good for you, but when they show up, and they're always really well dressed, they take the staff out to lunch, or they bring lunch, and it's all in marketing ploy. Get you to take things that, and again, I'm not anti-medication. Not anti-medication. If you need to take medicines to get you through the moment, do it. And then figure out what you need to do so that you can start making your own medications. Because at one point you did, and then at one point you stopped. And nobody asked that question. Doctor, is there any reason why I stopped making blood pressure regulating medication? He won't have the answer. Trust me. He won't have the answer, or he will tell you something that doesn't make sense. But it really is. You cannot run from the bear, less than positive emotion. You cannot run from the bear and make healing drugs at the same time. It's like running in two different directions or being in two places at the same time. I still have not mastered that yet. I would love to, but I just haven't been able to do it. And so since you are either healing or in survival, in those two moments, and they're different moments, but they cannot happen simultaneously. And so that means that when you're sitting down, worst position for your body, bending your neck forward, putting pressure on your brainstem, and now you decide to eat something while you're stressing on your computer, oh my goodness, you just created one of the fastest ways to kill yourself ever. Faster, run into a truck. That'll get you. But this is one of the fastest ways. We sit for hours and we poison ourselves with the acid residue from less than positive thinking. And it's poison. And so now, let's just back up. You're sitting at your mobile device, bending your head forward, putting pressure on your brainstem, tech neck. Message going from brain to body is distorted, delayed. You're in default mode for sure. Trust me, your computer's working on default, and computers can work in default mode, just not as efficiently and a whole lot slower. A lot slower. And so you multiply that times 8 hours, and you're not drinking any water. Every fluid-based fluid, every water-based fluid in your body needs water, and one of them is synovial fluid. Around every joint in the body ankles, knees, elbows, fingers, spine. These are joints. Around every joint, there is a bag of fluid.
Hold that thought,
protects the
Doctor.
joint.
It needs water, yeah.
Okay.
We have a break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Thursday. It is Thursday. Disregard me. Friday. It is Friday, the 22nd of November. Republic Broadcasting is having a fundraiser this week, a pledge drive, and we need the money. The paper clips, rubber bands, and bubble gum are holding things together barely, a little Scotch tape here and there. So if you feel moved to make a pledge, I would appreciate it. All the people at Republic Broadcasting would appreciate it. It will help us out a lot. You can make your donation, your pledge, right at republicbroadcasting.org using PayPal. You don't have to have a PayPal account, by the way, to use PayPal. Toll-free online to make a donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. You want to mail a check? Here you go. Republic Broadcasting, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. And before we get back to Dr. Wilbert, yes, we are going on a Caribbean cruise. Give our cruise director a call if you want to go with us. That's Betsy Murphy at 636-530-9502. Visiting with Dr. Lynn Wilbert. His telephone number, if you need a private consultation, is 314-495-6480. Let's continue, Doctor.
All righty, John Moore. We started off with knee replacements in the 40s, which is actually the fifth decade, but that's still early. Our long bones, legs, thigh, arms, connecting to the shoulder, by design alone, they are designed to last 120, 30 years.
Doctor, I didn't mention something. Imagine I got up every morning. First thing I did was put on a 100-pound backpack and wore it all day until I went to sleep that night. Do you think it might have some effect on my knees? Every day? Just
well,
maybe?
Again, we're back to not maybe, really. And if you don't believe me, get a 1-gallon jug and put it in each hand and see how much more difficult it is to go up and down stairs.
Well, that's about 16 pounds. Well, I'm not.
Yeah.
You're more.
I mean, but
you're more when you're 100 pounds above your weight. You should be. You're morbidly obese, and both these young men have been that way since they were teenagers, and now here they are getting knee replacements, and probably ankles and hips aren't in that much better shape. And yeah, it's a tragic situation. It really is.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, from teenagers into adulthood. You grow up wanting McDonald's hamburger Happy Meal. You've been taught to believe that milk does the body good, and man is the only mammal on the planet that continues to consume milk from another mammal beyond the weaning age. That's the dairy industry. Milk does the body good. I haven't seen a milk carton hug you yet. In fact, that's the source of mucus. Mucus is acid, and acid joint equals arthritis. If you're 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds more than what you're designed to carry, then it's going to have a stress on the systems, the musculoskeletal system, the cardiorespiratory system, cardiovascular system, Couple that with poisonous food, stinking thinking, sedentary lifestyle, neck, choking off the signal going from brain to body. You don't have enough water to lubricate the joint itself. One of the most talented performers of all time was James Brown. And James Brown, he used to jump up and he would do a hurdler split when he landed on the floor. A hurdler stretch. You know, the leg behind you, tucked behind you.
Yeah, I do that every morning. I do the hurdler stretch every morning. Yes, I know exactly what that is.
Yeah, so I did it like James Brown did it, but I didn't do it on purpose. It wasn't on purpose. I stepped down one step into the library, and there was something slippery on the floor, and my left foot slid out, and my right leg
turned underneath you. That hurt just thinking about it, Doctor. That hurts just thinking about it. Yeah.
It hurt so much that I just laid there because I knew I had bones jutting through the skin, a pool of blood. And then finally, after what seemed like a very long time, I got up and I hobbled back into the bedroom, and my wife was just laying there. I said, honey, why didn't you come and see what's going on? She says, as hard as you hit the floor, you was going to come and tell me, or I was going to call 911. There's no way I can get you up off the floor. The next day, my knee was 3-4 times bigger than the normal size.
Easily, yes.
And so now I have to go clinical. Oh, did I rip something? Did I tear something? I need to
hold that thought, Doctor. Hold that thought. We got a break. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday the 22nd of November. The hobby farm listed for sale at my website is still for sale, right here in my neighborhood. This is pretty extraordinary. An up and running, fully functional hobby farm, ready to go. Ready to go. It's about 3 miles from my driveway, which is my neighborhood, my zip code, 65456. Check out the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. Majority of my energy cleaner sales these days are people who already have 1 or 2 or 3. They're getting one for an adult child, a parent, a sibling. And this is the holiday season. People do that. They want to take care of the people they love, help see them get their life back like you got your life back. You energy cleaner owners out there, well, think about it. Who do you care about that has arthritis issues? Get them an energy cleaner. What a great Christmas gift. An energy cleaner and a mattress pad to go with it. Only $285 shipping included for the energy cleaner. Mattress pads, they vary in price depending on what you get, what you need. Keep in mind I offer a 90-day money-back guarantee on the energy cleaner. You can place your order right there at my website at thelibertyman.com using PayPal. Why do I mention PayPal so much? Well, here's the reason. It's the most secure way to make any payment online. You're not giving up your credit card information. Pretty neat. Toll-free online to order the energy cleaner and the mattress pads. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Visiting with Dr. Lynn Wilbert, we're talking about health-related matters, and Dr. Wilbert was just telling us about a very severe knee injury he suffered and the consequences of that. If you want to get and become a client of Dr. Wilbert, just give him a call at 314-495-6480. Well, doctor, I've suffered dislocated knee twice, a dislocated shoulder once, and these things can be pretty painful, can't they?
Oh, painful, yes. I like to use the term increased awareness because most people will prefer not to have pain. And aside from trauma, like running into a brick wall, which I've had the experience of doing, running into people repeatedly in football and rugby, running into the ground for whatever reason, get thrown off a horse. Well, trauma is a separate category of healing. Trauma is time sensitive, and it took me a year and a half with everything that I knew about healing to get my knee back to 85%. I was a walking, talking weather forecast. It was early September. The sun is shining. My knee is progressing. It's feeling wonderful. There's no increased awareness. And all of a sudden there is. Oh, what happened? Well, there was a shift in barometric pressure. The low air mass hit the high air mass. They combined. Rain is 100 miles away. And sure enough, it was. One of my clients asked me one time, Dr. Hoover, does the weather have anything to do with my arthritis? Well, here we are back to the water issue. 2/3 of the earth is water, at least. And in fact, I think it's increasing because the glaciers and ice caps are melting. And so 2/3 of your body is water easily. Every system in your body is comprised of water. Every fluid system, lymphatic system, enzymes, hormones, and women have twice as many hormones as we do at least. I've never counted, but we don't have babies, so that's enough. You've got, here's an important one, cerebral spinal fluid. The water-based fluid that makes sure that the electrical signal, and it's not one long nerve that goes from your brain to your big toe. You can move your big toe, and it's a series of junction points. The electrical signal travels from one junction point to the next at rapid speed. That's called synapses. Well, what makes that signal complete is the environment, the fluid environment that it has to move from one nerve cell to the next. It's water-based. So if you don't have enough water, blood and cerebral spinal fluid are the two fluids in the body that will decrease, and you won't even know it until you know it. Like blindfolded, walking to the edge of a flat roof, you won't know you took the last step off until you take the last step. You don't know. We don't have a nerve meter. Like we have a gas gauge in our car, we don't have a nerve meter to say you're about ready to run out of gas. You got to do something. You got to change your lifestyle. We don't have that luxury. The only way we know we run out of gas is our car stops in the middle of the highway at 3 o'clock in the morning. Because you didn't watch the gas gauge or you didn't pay attention to the gas gauge and you thought you could make it home. Well, we don't have a nerve meter. We don't have a nerve gauge to tell us where we are in our level of survival. You know, once sick, we're always surviving. Always surviving. If you're alive, you're surviving. If you're not sick, you're a survivor. I tell my seniors that. Point to yourself. Look in the mirror. into your left eye, which is the same eye in the mirror. And another person, when you're looking at the person, it's the opposite eye. But in the mirror, it's the same eye in the reflection. Look in that left eye, which attaches to the intuitive brain, and say to yourself, I am not sick. I am surviving. And as soon as you realize that, you're taking a giant leap forward in healing. To realize the body is a perfect stimulus and response organism, and now I'm making choices to facilitate my healing, where before I didn't know. And therein lies the question, John, is that we don't know. And the people with the marketing savvy, they're getting us to believe things that's just not true. Just not true. And so now you have this whole generation, 50s, 60s, that have compromised their bodies, and pain is a very powerful motivator. Very powerful motivator. I've been around for, my next one I'll be 2048. And that's surprising to me because those years went by really fast. However, what I've realized is that I must continue doing what I know to do, only more of it. The sedentary lifestyle will mess you up. It'll mess you up, and you won't even know it. We have Wells Fargo is a giant employer here in St. Louis, and I go and teach those people how to not kill themselves by working at their computers 8, 9, 10 hours a day. They've got about 6,000 employees. And so I tell them that, number one, get up every hour, hour and a half. Number two, if you're going to eat something, remove yourself from your workstation and spend 10 minutes enjoying your food. Sing to it, hum, whatever. Think positive thoughts. Because if you're thinking less than positive thoughts while you're consuming anything, it's like running in two directions at the same time. Virtually impossible. It's like healing and running from the bear at the same time. Impossible. So, if the conversation turns toward less than positive while you're eating, stop eating. Stop eating, because rare is the individual that can run off the road and snap back instantly to positive thinking. Rare. It takes you a millisecond to get upset and takes you hours to calm down. That should tell you something. Oh, that would be a hormone called adrenaline, water-based. All hormones are water-based. For the last, since this is the height of cleansing season, meaning we're transitioning from fall into winter, back to fall. We don't know what's going on, but your survival system has to deal with that. It's an environmental adjustment. And so I've been making sure that I get at least a gallon of water in every day. I just carry the gallon around with me and empty it by the end of the day. How would I do that? Because most everyone in this region, we're cleansing because the seasons are changing. Cleansing is a cold or a flu. If you have a cold, it's the upper respiratory cleansing to save your heart. If you have a flu, it's muscles and joint cleansing to save your heart. In any instance, what your body is telling you is that has to be a lifestyle modification in order for me to keep living here. Because if I check out, guess what? You guys are going to have to check out too most of the time. And the brain knows that. And so the brain will delegate any person, any structure, any entity, any cell to handle the asset of lifestyle: eat, drink, breathe, exercise, rest, and thinking. Oh, that's how you muck yourself up with less than positive thinking. Now, you can tell that people are mucked up, just look at their face. Round. And muscles have memory. Muscles have memory. You've heard that before. If you're frowning, you're not accessing a memory where you were happy and laughing. You're accessing a memory where you were frowning, upset, or mad, or angry. Poison. Worst poison on the planet is less than the chemistry that's made from a less than positive thought about anything, anyone, anybody, any circumstance past, present, or future. Your subconscious, which is in charge of your healing system, doesn't know the difference between those moments. So from the moment that you were created to the moment that you expire the physical body, the subconscious doesn't know the difference in those moments. And so everything is accumulative on a vertical timeline, not a linear timeline. Tomorrow is Saturday, and incidentally, John, Friday is my most favorite day of the week, so I just pretend like every day is Friday now.
All right. I like that.
Yeah, I do too. In fact, I was convinced that yesterday was Friday until I looked at the calendar. See, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what you vividly visualize, what you intensely imagine, and what you positively pretend. It doesn't know the difference. I had a client tell me this was a gentleman. He says, Dr. Robert, I'm an adult. I don't pretend nothing. I deal with reality. What is reality? Reality is only your perception of the moment by way of your five senses. Ooh. Reality is your perception of the moment by way of what you hear or see or smell or taste or touch or think. The six, yes. That's reality. So you get to determine your reality? Well, Mr. Client, that's why you're stiff and you can barely move. Is because you refuse to pretend. The reason why children can grow up into adults is because they let go stuff instantly. You get a group of 5-year-olds, and inevitably you're going to have some kind of altercation that you have to go over and interrupt. And minutes later, they're back lovey buddies again. Do adults do that? No. In fact, you're going to be hanging out with friends and family and relatives, and inevitably that's going to be an experience that was brought up, that will be brought up and discussed. And those feelings will be felt again. And, you know, those feelings were some that you wish you had skipped over the first time, but now you're reliving it. And the reality is, I encourage everyone to get on YouTube and Google Ella Fitzgerald, is it live or is it Memorex? The goblet in that commercial could not determine that it was a recording of Ella Fitzgerald's voice that broke the goblet. A physical law. And we, as part of the physical universe, we must abide by the physical laws. Resistance to the law is futile. Resistance is futile. It will help you exhaust the physical body faster. And so you couple all of these things, everything, every aspect of your lifestyle, and again, the body is the perfect messenger. What? If the body is the perfect messenger, Dr. Land, what's wrong with my knee? Okay, let me start over. Creation is perfect. Everything you see is part of creation. As a scientist, I happen to believe in intelligent design. There's different names of that intelligent designer, but this stuff didn't happen by itself. It's like taking pizza toppings and put some tomato sauce on the crust, and then take those toppings and throw it up in the air, and it'll land perfectly on the pizza crust. It won't happen. But what about the Big Bang Theory? Well, have you ever blown up a firecracker? Cherry bomb? One of them big ones? You ever blew something up? Dynamite? Yeah. You can't find the fragments. They're scattered all over the place. So even if it was a Big Bang Theory, who controls the outcome of the Big Bang? Exactly. Intelligent designer. And so since that is what is real, then it's up to us to use our five senses to determine what is real. There's no entity in creation that can choose to be upset. If you look closely at the trees, and we had some rain and some wind, and it was raining leaves at one time. But if you look closely at the trees in this region, Midwest, they have little buds on them. They're already getting ready for the spring. Ooh. We're getting ready to complain about how much snow we're going to get. Well, there's no sense in complaining because you can't control the weather. I don't even see why they pay the meteorologists. They're hardly ever right. But they're entertaining. And so the environment responds to the time period where we are, and that's dictated by the position of the Earth in relationship to the sun. And so right around now in wintertime, we're closer to the sun. It would seem like it'd be warmer, but no, we're on the other side. It's winter, fall and winter. And so now that we know the environment is changing, and it's a cumulative interference. A cumulative interference. Interference is a disruption, a slowdown, a detour, a halting of a nerve signal. And nerves make everything work in your body. If it works in your body, a nerve is there to make it work. And so everyone, most everyone, at some point in their life, they go to see a medical doctor.
Hold that thought, Doctor. We have our last break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the 22nd of November. If you would like to be a client of Dr. Wilbert, have a private consultation, just give him a call at 314-495-6480. And this is Dr. Wilbert's favorite day, Friday. Got about 3 minutes here, Doctor.
All righty. Well, again, your body is one of 4 composite components of your existence. There's your body, then there's your conscious mind, which you think with, and then there's your subconscious mind that keeps track of your red blood cells, your calcium level, and all that stuff that you don't think about. And then there's your energy field. We're energy beings before we were physical beings. And so the energy field, and you can Google it, electromagnetic energy field. We'll get into that conversation on the subsequent phone calls. But it's your energy field that built you. So the most important thing in life is to manage your life with your mind. Management of your energy field. Every thought you have affects every cell, every time, either toward healing or away. So let me say that again. Every thought affects every cell, either toward healing or away. So monitor your thoughts. How many thoughts did you have yesterday that were less than positive? And did you clean the slate? John, you remember this? You used to have a device, you write on it, and then you raise the sheet and pull it. It'll go away.
Etch-a-Sketch. Etch-a-Sketch.
Yeah, well, it was before Etch-a-Sketch. Etch-a-Sketch was the numbers or the dials. This had a pen. You could write on it, and you raise it, and then it go away. Oh, my goodness. Well, that's what we do every day. We clean the slate. If you live through an experience, you learned. My grandmother taught me when I was 9 years old, if it didn't kill you, it made you stronger. I'm still figuring that out, but it's true. If you're still alive, that means you've learned, and you have more things to learn. And you share that learning with the youngsters because it's a whole new different thing that we've never experienced. It's called mobile devices. Tech neck, brain dead. I'm just a little brain dead. No, you can't be a little anything. Put your toe in the water, and every cell in your body knows that you're in the water.
Doctor, thank you very much.